In this episode of Ask Captain Chris, we will open your eyes to the possibilities of pleasure boating aboard your perfect boat.
Hi, I'm Captain Chris, and welcome to What is the Perfect Cruising Boat for You? Cruise along with us as we show you photographs and videos of different boats that we've seen along America's waterways. We'd like to help you establish your mission for your boat so you can decide what type of a hull design and a cabin design that will best fit your needs. Full displacement, semi-displacement, planing hull, galley up, galley down, master stateroom forward, aft, or midship, flybridge, or pilot house, and a million other questions that you might have. We hope to help you figure that out into this episode. Stick around, let's take a cruise.
Do you dream of cruising around the world in your own boat? Or how about paddling around the pond? Are toys really important to bring with you? Some of you are fishermen and you love that blue-green water. Maybe swimming off the transom is fun. Love to have people aboard for dinner. Whatever size boat, big or small, there's something out there for you. Would you prefer something large enough to have your whole family aboard? Or cozy enough for just the two of you to cruise the Caribbean? Perhaps a sunset cruise around the harbor, or a cruise around the world for a trip of a lifetime. A pilot house is a terrific option. In addition to a fully enclosed helm station, you can cruise in comfort when it's not your turn at the wheel. Perhaps you'd prefer the panoramic views from the flybridge. There are lots of flybridge options in cruising boats. Let's imagine we've just picked up the anchor after a wonderful night at a secluded anchorage. The sun is just popped over the horizon. It's a cool spring morning on the Carolina coast, something we snowbirds experience spring and fall as we travel the intercoastal waterway up the eastern coastline, and sometimes even along the Gulf of Mexico. Cruisers are a very social bunch, and last night we shared dinner aboard this custom cruiser. The owners have come out on deck this morning to wish us a bon voyage. Did that wake you up? Has this been a little too sedate for you? Well, this type of cruising isn't for everyone. Perhaps this is more your style. Maybe you like all the comforts of a trawler, but with a little more speed under your hull. With a planing or semi-planing hull, you have the option of trawler speed, but when you need to, you have the power to get where you want to go. And then there's always the looper on so many cruisers' bucket list.
Now that we've established the mission for your boat, let's talk about hull designs. Starting with hull designs, let's talk about the full displacement boat first. We affectionately call these fat, slow boats. They're copied after the shrimp boat design, or the trawler. You can see the full keel is deeper than the propellers are. This way, if you were to ground the boat or hit a log, hopefully there's no damage to your running gear. In this photo to the right and left, you can see the large rudders And now in this photo to the left you can see the large rudder, and again the black propeller, the strut, and the shaft are all higher or more shallow than the keel, so if you should hit something, the running gear should be protected and no damage, and you can continue on with your cruise. This is a travel lift, a marine travel lift, the way that you actually dry dock a boat for service, for bottom painting, propeller changing, or if you have to drop anything like a rudder to have it serviced. This is a mobile apparatus on wheels or tires, and they can drive it anywhere around the shipyard. Set your boat down for your maintenance. Here you can see Sean in the white shirt. He has a remote control operating the travel lift. Now we're looking at a single engine full displacement boat. Look at this large keel. See how the propeller is up and protected? Also the rudder is up and protected should you ground the boat. Walking around to the stern of the boat, you can see how it's got a smooth profile underneath the hull. You can barely see the three blades of the propeller and the rudder, and I want to point out the zinc slightly to the left. We've walked over more to the right or the starboard side, so again you can see the rudder and the propeller are protected because of the large keel. Catamarans are multi-hull boats, or 2 or 3 hulls in one boat design. Usually you've got one engine in each of the hulls. This is a catamaran 2 hulls, so you've got a port engine and a starboard engine in the port hull and in the starboard hull. This is the same boat aboard a ship in Charleston, South Carolina. To the right you can see the rudder, the propeller shaft, and then the hulls themselves. See the port hull and the starboard hull. These are popular boats for many families in the cruising or the charter boat marketplace. Tired of going slow? Look at this boat. It just looks a little bit faster than a full displacement boat. This is a semi-planing, also known as a semi-displacement boat. It has a keel to protect the propeller and the rudders, has more horsepower, and it goes faster. Here in the center screen you can see the keel that will protect the propellers and the rudders, and on the left you can see the stern of the boat, and there are prop pockets where the propellers are tucked up inside the bottom of the hull, making the propellers more protected should you ground the boat. Here you can see the prop pocket itself. You can see the 2 rudders and then the 2 propeller shafts. The propellers have been removed for service. Look up at the middle center is the trim tab. So much like an outboard motor with a trim and tilt, these are the trim tabs to help get the nose down. A semi-planing or a semi-displacement boat not fast enough for you? Try a full planing boat. Full planing boats are very fast. Fast is relative, but we're looking in the 20, 25, and even faster speed ranges. Again, looking at the cabin on this boat, you can see it's a little faster design. This boat's being hauled out for a sea trial and survey, for a pre-purchase survey for the insurance company and the mortgage company. Looking at the stern, you can see these propellers and rudders are down low, and that the hull is more flat, giving it a planing ability. Much like an airplane would fly, the boat flies across the top of the water. Again, we're looking at the stern, the 2 propellers, the 2 rudders, and notice there is no propeller protection on this boat should you ground it or hit a log. Another boat here with the red bottom paint and the gray paint on the running gear, propellers and rudders. And to the right and left you can see those binocular looking things. They are actually underwater lights that are bolted onto the trim tabs. The same trim tabs to help your boat nose go up and down depending on sea conditions. The horizontal cylinder in the center of the screen is actually the stern thruster, making it easier for you to dock. This boat has got huge prop pockets and monstrous propellers and 6 blades. I can only imagine how fast this boat goes. And look outboard, port and starboard. You can see the trim tabs tucked under the hull. I'm in Florida's Treasure Coast at Cracker Boys Marina. This is a do-it-yourself yard. and I'm looking at a 50-foot Gibson houseboat. I have the camera faced on the hull identification number HIN. It starts out with GBN, so that's Gibson. 50 is the boat length, and to the far right you can see the 02. That means it's a 2002 construction. Starboard bow profile of the Gibson 50 houseboat. You can see it's up on the hard. It's getting the bottom job done, getting ready to splash next Monday, headed north up the ICW to Jacksonville, St. Johns River, then back down to Lake Monroe in Sanford, Florida. Looking at the bow of the boat, what I really want to show you is the underwater part of the hull with the semi-V and then the flat bottom. This is what makes it plane very easily and get the higher speeds. It's also what makes it not so ocean worthy. This is a lakes, bays, and sounds type of hull. You can see that they've done some sanding, getting rid of a few blisters, and we do not have the black bottom paint on it yet, but I just wanted to show you how flat this hull is, and looking all the way back, 50 feet back to the propellers and the rudders and the stern of the boat. Now I'm out of the direct sunlight. I'm sitting under the boat about 1/3 of the way aft of the bow, and you can see the blocks holding the keel up, and then the tripods on the outboard side, the starboard side of the boat. And I'm going to bend over, and you can see the propellers all the way in the back of the boat. We're outside in the sunlight looking at the starboard rudder, propeller shaft, the prop itself, the strut, and then the two nuts holding the propeller onto the prop shaft. So far we've been looking at larger boats. Let's talk about trailerable cruisers. If you want all of the comforts of home in a smaller package, this type of boat may be for you. If you have one of these smaller boats that can be towed or trucked across the country, you can hire a professional boat trucking company, or if you've got a bigger pickup truck or a Suburban and a trailer, you can tow it yourself. Here we see Larry pulling his 31-foot catamaran style proa boat up the boat ramp and then back to his home. Now that we've talked about the different hull designs, full displacement, semi-displacement, planing hulls, multi-hulls, and even trailerable boats, come along with us and let's see them in action. Many people have often thought about sailing off into the sunset. In this scene we show a sailboat and a powerboat motoring up the Intercoastal Waterway in South Florida. I say motoring because the sailboat is not under sail, and you can see on both the right and the left side of the Intercoastal Waterway we've got a lot of tall condominiums, making sailing almost impossible. Therefore, the powerboat might be the smarter choice. The powerboat generally has 4 times the volume, a lot more living space on the inside, and of course climate controlled. Now in Middle Florida, again on the Atlantic Intercoastal Waterway, you can see this bigger cruising boat sliding along effortlessly, no bow wake, no stern wake to think about, and also no condominiums. We're in the country, we're in rural Florida, so this is the great way to go cruising. Looking at this boat, you can see the anchor on the far right on the bow of the boat, and then the big foredeck. Then you can see the Portuguese bridge. Now you see the pilot house with the open door going inside the pilot house. Up top, the flybridge with the bimini top, the canvas top, and an arch holding up the radar and the radio instrument antennas. A dinghy is on the roof of the back of the boat, and then we have a cockpit down low close to water level for fishing or for getting on board your dinghy. Also, you can see a satellite receiver for television. You might say, this boat has it all. On a smaller scale, look at this tug-style boat. It's got a pilot house, no flybridge, has a bimini top on the aft deck above the saloon, and then look at the dinghy. There's no crane or davit to lift the dinghy onto the roof of the boat, so they hinge it up on the swim platform. This is a great little cruising boat, about 32 feet, has everything you need: air conditioning, generator, galley, 2 bunk rooms, and interior steering in the pilot house. Moving up in size, look at this 42-foot cruiser. Pilot house. On top of the pilot house, a flybridge with the bimini folded back. Has a mast holding the radar up to give better, longer distance view for the radar. We also have a boom connected to the mast to raise and lower the dinghy that's mounted on the aft deck roof of this boat. This is a wonderful cruising boat. It's a good seaworthy boat. Has walk-around decks for docking on the port and starboard side, and great for locking on the Great Loop. Now that we've looked at 3 basic sizes of boats, let's talk about something a little bit quicker. This is a semi-displacement or semi-planing boat, and you'll note that the boat is faster, but the bow is down a little bit, so it's a heavier boat riding more comfortably in the heavy seaway. This boat has a lower helm in the salon area and a flybridge with an upper helm. You can also see the mast holding the radar up higher, again for longer distance use of the radar. That mast is also double duty, holding up the boom to lift the dinghy up onto the roof of the aft hardtop. Looking at the aft deck, you see a large aft deck that's down close to the water level. This type of boat is a sedan style cabin design, and you can see the larger windows midship and forward for the staterooms. Look at all of the large windows in the saloon for almost 180-degree visibility from the lower helm. You can appreciate this boat's quicker. This is a twin-engine boat capable of about 20 knots, and we're filming this in Anacortes, Washington, and Guemes Island. Look at the bow of this boat. It's up high, the boat's going faster. This is obviously a full planing boat. The boat is almost out of the water. Half of the boat is in the air, half of the boat is underwater, mostly just the propellers and rudders. Looking at the cabin design, this again is a sedan style cabin with a flybridge, and instead of having a mast and boom for a dinghy, it actually has a radar arch holding the radar. And as we pass, you can see that there's no dinghy on the back of the boat. And here comes another sedan style boat. You can see this is very fast. It's a planing boat. Look at the rods and reels. So the sedan style boat is generally associated with the sport fishing boat. Needs to go fast to get out, catch the fish, and get back in for the weigh-in. You can see as he meets us, he's slowing down, coming off plane, going into a full displacement mode. Now he's plowing water, and as soon as he passes us, he'll accelerate and get back on plane. This semi-displacement, semi-planing boat is modeled after the 1920s commuter boats of New York City. You can see the pilot house, the Dutch door, the top half of the Dutch door is open, the flybridge with the canvas bimini, the mast with the radar, also has a satellite TV dome on the mast, a dinghy on the back deck, a large cockpit aft, and a swim platform. This is a wonderful cruising boat. It's O'Dark 30, Norfolk, Virginia. This 34-foot boat, semi-displacement, semi-planing, single engine, bow thruster and stern thruster, lower helm, upper flybridge, mast, radar, dinghy boom. Watch this boat as it makes a 180-degree turn in the winds in the harbor in Norfolk, Virginia. And let's just sit back and watch how easy it is to handle this boat. Got all that? Now let's talk about space, deck designs, and cabin designs. We'll talk about pilot houses, downstairs steering, upstairs steering on the flybridge. We'll also talk about the tug styles, which are very popular, traditional trawler styles, motor yachts, motor cruisers. Sounds confusing, but you need to figure out if you can carry your toys. Where do you put your dinghy? How big is your dinghy? Where do you put your bicycle? Or would you prefer a motorcycle? What about the jet ski? You need to plan for all of these extra items on the deck, on the roof, or on the swim platform of your cruising boat. This blue water cruising boat is a very heavy full displacement hull with an asymmetrical cabin or a wide body cabin. The cabin comes all the way to the port side with no deck. Looking up to the center of the boat, you can see the birds or the paravanes for passive stabilizing when running in the open ocean. On the top right, you can see the dinghy is on the deck or the aft roof, and then down back on the stern you can see the wide open cockpit and the walkway to starboard.
This is a very comfortable cruiser with a full-size saloon due to the asymmetrical cabin. A great settee with lots of windows all around. And can't you just smell the turkey from the oven getting ready for Thanksgiving dinner? With a 3-burner propane stove and a microwave and all this countertop, you could make just about any kind of meal. And it's nice to have a double sink as well. Going down into the master stateroom, it's got a full queen-size walk-around. Very comfortable. And there's room for guests up in the forward berth with its own ensuite head. Now we'll head up the stairs to the pilot house. A full array of electronics and a terrific view. And this multi-purpose area has a day bunk, can be used as an office or even a man cave. From the aft cockpit, we're walking forward on a nice wide side deck. Great for handling lines or boarding. And now we're approaching the Portuguese bridge. There's lots of hatches for great ventilation into the staterooms.
The trunk cabin, classic design boat like this, has a cabin forward that you can walk around and the master cabin aft that you can walk around. These are called trunk cabins. The center cabin is the saloon, and that gives this boat another name called a tri-cabin, forward, aft, and center saloon cabin. Look at the large windshields. This boat does have a lower steering station in the saloon, and now you can see the flybridge above with the bimini canvas top. Again, looking aft to the left, we've got the dinghy on the back deck. Looking at the trunk cabin, the master cabin again. So we do have full walk-around ability on this boat that's great for locking and docking, and there's always room for a bicycle or two. Many classic design boats have got a lot of teak accents. This is a fiberglass boat, but it looks like a teak stern, but it's just an inlay. Look at the teak handrails, and now the teak steps going up onto the aft cabin and then up to the flybridge. That teak should not be varnished because the foot pads should be non-skid. A different angle of the foot pads, and then look at the decking on top of the tri-cabin, so you go up 3 more steps up to the flybridge. Looking at the starboard profile of this boat, you can see the large window area in the saloon, looking at the mast, holding up the radar, and then the boom for the dinghies. If you're looping, make sure that your mast is hinged and you can lay it down to get under those low bridges on the Great Loop. This boat has a pilot house and flybridge, and let's take a look at a few of the features it has. Let's start at the stern on the right. See the swim platform with those big handrails on the swim platform? A lot of people have nicknamed those staples. That's what they look like, staples. But if you're getting on and off your dinghy, those handles or handrails are really nice to have, especially if it's a little choppy. The aft cockpit is down low to the water, making dinghy access easy. Looking more to the left on the port side, you'll notice those curved stairs going from the aft deck up to the flybridge. On top of the flybridge, see that big white suitcase? That's actually a life raft, an inflatable life raft. And then behind that, you'll see a larger dinghy, maybe a 30 horsepower outboard, and it's covered under a blue canvas. And don't forget the red kayak. Looking inside the pilot house out, you can see all of the terrific visibility from the large windows, port, starboard, and forward. It's a great place to be when it's hot or when it's cold, because you've got a generator and an air conditioner or heater. Now that they're ready to cast off, let's watch them test the bow thruster, the stern thruster, and the single engine gear shifter, and away we go.
Take it off? Yep. No one else takes the coat and sit. Walk the coat and sit. Very, very angry. You can't hear it. Isn't the flybridge? You can't hear it. Yeah, right back here.
I'm standing on the anchor pulpit looking aft at the pilot house and the flybridge on top. Also look port and starboard at the terrific walk-around decks for docking and locking. And then of course that nice comfortable bench to sit on the front of the pilot house when at anchor. Now up on the flybridge looking forward, I can see the anchor where I was standing earlier. I can also see the mooring ball, so that makes it easier when you're trying to pick up a mooring ball. Here, from the flybridge, you can see the terrific views, port, starboard, forward, and naturally aft as well. A lot of space, a lot of walking around room, terrific instrumentation on the dashboard. Now we're anchoring. You can see me giving arm signals up on the bow so that we can raise and lower the anchor without having to talk back and forth to the helmsman. Now a side view. I'd like to point out the pilot house has got the forward raked windshields, which makes night view a lot better with no glare on the inside of the pilot house from your instruments. Look at that large door to the pilot house. Then upstairs you've got the flybridge itself and the views from the flybridge to the forward deck, to the side decks, and to the aft decks. If you need to give instructions to your deckhands, on the forward deck and the side deck you can see them and speak to them. or if they're aft and you cannot see them, then you may want to consider using those headsets.
Just like Goldilocks, you'll find a galley that is just right for you. Lots of counter space, full-size oven, microwave, try a convection. And imagine that this is aboard a catamaran. Lots of counter space here in this Texas-sized galley. And here's a pass-through where you can visit with your guests. Galley down, very cozy. And a full-size side-by-side household refrigerator. There's a saying, drinks for 6, dinner for 4, and sleeps 2. Well, not every boat. Some of them have a V-berth for your guests, or maybe bunks for the grandkids, or a full-size queen walk-around in the master stateroom. It's gotta be fun no matter what.
Welcome to the engine room of this single engine boat. You can see the propulsion engine in the forward right part of the photograph. Then that big white box centerline aft is the generator and a hush box to make it quiet. Further aft you can see the muffler for the generator and then the knee pads in the engine room. Other items of interest are that big silver handrail in the middle of the photograph right. That's a handhold, so if you have to go in the engine room during rough weather, you won't fall into the engine. Some people like walk-in engine rooms. This engine room has a deck hatch in the middle of the saloon floor, so you can drop down into the engine room. Once in the engine room, we can show you what all of the different components are. Propulsion engine, generator, fuel supply system, fuel polishing system, electrical connections, bilge pumps, air conditioners. We can show you everything that you need to know how to maintain and operate your boat. Keep in mind, we're not trying to make a mechanic out of you. We just want to make you more knowledgeable about your boat. Imagine yourself on a much larger boat with a much larger engine room, walk-in engine room. Look at the space between the port and the starboard engine. See the big silver muffler off to the left side of the photograph? In the center you've got a big man cover for the fuel tank, manifolding system, power systems, electrical management control. The big box to the right is your hydraulic fluid for your stabilizers. Tons and tons of space comes with the larger walk-in engine room. Speaking of walk-in, this is a crawl-in engine room, but if you've got to do a lot of maintenance, you can lift up the 4 deck hatches and then you've got plenty of space to do whatever you need to do. Here Catherine is changing the oil and taking care of the records for the maintenance cycles on the different parts of the engine, and then of course logging it into her notebook. Look at her earmuffs. So while the engines are running, you don't want to damage your ears. Back again on a medium-sized boat, walk-in engine room, 3 of us are looking at the cooling system, the raw water cooling system on these propulsion engines, and this boat has 2 generators, a port and starboard generator. A lot of space if you've got the boat that can handle it. Check out the large workbench to the right and the big handholds between the 2 engines. If your engine room's not that big and you can't work below decks, take off the parts that need maintenance and bring them topsides onto the aft deck. Here are some common parts that need attention or repair. On left we have an exhaust riser, in the center a transmission cooler, and on the right the raw water impeller for the cooling pump. In the middle of the table we have a sea strainer to catch debris and a faulty impeller. As a team handling the boat, you normally have a helmsman and a deckhand. So you need to have the ability to walk around to the side of the boat, port and starboard, so you can handle the dock lines and also the fenders. You also want to have sight lines so the helmsman can see what the dockhand and the deckhand aboard the boat are doing. Here we're looking down from the flybridge and we see our two deckhands smiling, and you can see the piling. We're very close to the dock. Next we'll show a walking video of what your deckhand will see as they walk from aft to forward on the boat. Notice all the handrails, the high handrails, and now again from the helm looking down we can see Haldine using her marriage savers, her walkie-talkies, and her husband Buck walking up to the flybridge in the St. Lucie locks. This is the Sundeck aft cabin. It's called the Sundeck because it's larger and you can get sunlight on the back deck. Although this one has a hard top, allowing you storage for your kayak or your dinghies. The purpose of the Sundeck aft cabin is its larger interior space and larger deck space on top of the cabin. This is the original design of a Sundeck cabin. You can see the removable bimini canvas top. If the weather's great, you can fold it up and get sun on the deck. And if the weather's too hot on those July the 4th afternoons, you can stretch out the bimini and put shade on the cabin. One disadvantage of this is you do not have the hard top, you do not have the storage ability of putting your kayak or your dinghy on the roof. This photograph is our boat, Sandy Hook, our 44-foot training trawler in Fort Pierce, Florida, with the Sundeck aft cabin, and you can see how tall the headroom is inside the aft cabin. You've got headroom from gunnel to gunnel in the master stateroom, and then again you've got all that full deck space from gunnel to gunnel on top. To take advantage of all that additional deck space, you can have your dining table out there to enjoy a nice hearty breakfast, and then you can change that to a charting table so you can plan your trip for the rest of the day. Here comes a Sundeck hardtop cockpit cruiser. Look at this. Flybridge, bimini top, arch, dinghy, hardtop, Sundeck, and what's that on the back? Look, there's a cockpit sticking off the back of the boat, making it easier for you to get on the swim platform, into your dinghy, or for fishing from a rod and reel. Look at a variety of these boats during our local Vero Beach Power Squadron raft up. On the left you can see a hardtop Sundeck motor cruiser. Then to the right of that you can see a dinghy hanging from davits on a trunk cabin cruiser. And then a little bit to the right of that is another Sundeck hardtop cruiser. And to the far right of the screen is a sedan boat with a cockpit. These 4 different boats show you a lot of ideas about cabin sizes, locations to carry your different accessories like dinghies, bicycles, and kayaks. Where would you want to put the dinghy? How big is your dinghy? This is a very large dinghy with a center console steering wheel, probably a 40 horsepower motor. And look in the foreground of the photo, you can see the big electro-hydraulic dinghy davit. Of course, your boat's got to be big enough to hold this weight on the roof, but here, he's got the big boat and he's got the big dinghy, and he can pull teenagers on water skis. This trunk-style cruiser has a dinghy mounted on the aft cabin. by using the mast and boom technique to lift it. This smaller sedan-style boat doesn't have any deck space that can fit a dinghy, so they use davits and carry it off the transom over the swim platform. Another method of carrying the dinghy aboard your boat is this swim platform transom-mounted dinghy hinge. You can see the 9.9 outboard motor is vertical. It's on an articulated arm, and as the dinghy is lowered over to the left, the motor also stays vertical the entire way and settles down into the transom on the dinghy. Watch this typical launch and recovery system of a dinghy from the top of a hardtop Sundeck cruiser. We have an electric winch. Elise will lift the dinghy up, we'll swing it out and lower it down. That was easy. Now watch this next system where the dinghy is hinged off the swim platform. Now watch John as he uses the hand crank to winch this dinghy up. Pay attention to the motor that's under the gray bag. It's on an articulated hinge. That motor will stay vertical all the time as the dinghy is hinged into an upright position.
That was the whole point. We changed it. The other thing we had, we put it one time. Terrible.
I just flattened it on
Well, were you a sailor before? Oh, yes. No. Between 7 and 8 pounds.
That's like,
Watch how this cam's up
Yes,
locked.
but-
This is pretty good. See how that cam's in there? Bam. Now I loosen it up a little bit, and I put this pin in here, and it goes through that all the way through. And then we had this. Now when you tighten this up, you worry about the door.
But you'd have to do the
Now watch my door. This all had to be measured.
This is the same design on a different boat, 9.8 motor, and see the hand crank with the big silver box in the center of the screen. So you can get the idea. You can have the dinghy on the stern swim platform, you can have it on the trunk cabin, or you can have it on the hardtop roof of your cruising boat. Another option is the TNT, or the hydraulic swim platform elevator. This elevator will lower into the water, step right into the dinghy, start the motor and back it off of the platform. And then when you come back, just motor right back into the cradle, push the button, pull the TNT back up, and then away you go. Wherever you store your dinghy, whatever kind of dinghy you have, it's a key part of cruising. Anchor the mothership out in deep water, hop aboard your dinghy, and zip to shore. Pick up some seashells or to go shopping in a quaint town on the islands. And no, I didn't forget. If your four-legged, furry best friend needs to go on shore patrol, this is the best way to get him there. Breakfast and dinner. This is Bert, our first mate. Look at this innovative boat design. Large open aft deck, good ladder going up to the flybridge, large windows in the saloon area, sliding glass door, settee to port. Walking forward, you can see those two huge helm chairs with armrests, great steering station, and pay attention to all of these windows and visibility, 360-degree viewing. You can see the bow. Don't have to worry about any visibility there. Looking over to port, this is a galley up, galley sink, and looking back to the stern again, the large seating area on the aft deck. By the way, the engines on this boat are all the way aft. Flat top stove. Going down the stairs, looking forward to the master cabin forward. Walk around queen, very spacious. Instead of a ladder, you may see steps like this. If you want to make your aft deck bigger, move these seats outboard. Look at this very large pilot house, helm seat, dining table to port, huge galley right here, marble countertop, very large sink. Now looking aft into the saloon with this very comfortable seating. Great for a football game.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to find the right boat design for you to start living the dream.
You may expect me to say this is the end, but it's not. It's only the beginning. We hope that all these different ideas have planted some seeds for you to figure out what your mission is and what kind of boat would best fit your needs. Ask Captain Chris. You can call us. We're available for telephone consulting. We also have our own 44-foot motor cruiser here in Fort Pierce, Florida. Come aboard and cruise with us for 2, 3, 4, or 5 days. Living aboard, living the dream. We'll cruise somewhere to a different anchorage every evening, run the generator, launch and recover the dinghy, cook aboard, navigate, trip plan, use the radar, use the GPS chart plotter, and the fail-safe paper charts. Let us help you start living the dream. We can do that. And then when it comes time for you to buy your own boat, we can also go to your boat and help you learn your new boat, and maybe even help you take it from the buying location back to your home port. We call that a training delivery. Remember, if you have a question, ask Captain Chris, your cruising consultant.
That's a plane boat, isn't it?
Yes.
Bye, Cap.
Bye-bye.